They were never supposed to know each other. Egypt, Peru, Mesopotamia, the Indus Valley. Civilizations scattered across continents and centuries, each said to have developed on its own. And yet they told the same kinds of stories, built the same monumental shapes, worshipped the same sun, watched the same stars. It's not coincidence. It's a code etched in temples, myths, and the stars. One that stretches across the ancient world like a forgotten language. Written in stone, myth, and memory, and one mainstream history still struggles to explain. We'll follow that pattern through sacred geometry, shared symbols, impossible maps, and solar temples. We'll look at what unites these ancient cultures and what that might say about us today. And stay with us until the end, because we'll reveal a recent genetic discovery that may upend everything we thought we knew about how isolated these civilizations really were. This is Armchair Archaeology, and today we're unlocking a mystery hidden not just in the past, but possibly in ourselves. Before we dive into the cosmic codes and sacred structures, don't forget to subscribe to Armchair Archaeology. A single click helps us bring more mysteries, myths, and mind-expanding history straight to your feed. And if you're loving the journey already, give this video a quick thumbs up so more explorers can find us. Long before textbooks or telescopes, ancient cultures were mapping the universe with stone, light, and math. Civilizations across the globe, with no known contact, designed their temples and cities using the same principles: golden ratios, planetary alignments, sacred angles. Somehow, they reached for the cosmos in ways that mirrored one another with uncanny precision. In Egypt, the Great Pyramid encodes pi and the golden ratio in its geometry. At Teotihuacan in Mexico, the city layout reflects planetary distances and orientations. In Cambodia, Angkor Wat aligns with solstices and reflects Hindu cosmology as if it were a terrestrial model of the universe. Stonehenge in England frames both solar and lunar cycles so precisely it rivals modern observatories. This isn't just about clever engineering. It reflects a worldview where math wasn't abstract, it was spiritual. Geometry was a sacred language, and building in harmony with the sky was a way to honor or even channel divine order. And then there's Göbekli Tepe, perhaps the most astonishing example. Built over 11,000 years ago, before agriculture or metal tools, this hilltop sanctuary features massive T-shaped pillars carved with animals and celestial symbols. Millennia before the pyramids or Stonehenge, it stood as a celestial observatory carved by hand. Its layout appears to track the stars, long before writing existed. It challenges everything we thought we knew about when humans became astronomers or theologians. What's more, these principles still shape our world. We see the golden ratio in art, architecture, even smartphone design. Like our ancestors, we're still drawn to patterns that echo nature and the cosmos. So how did ancient builders, scattered across time and terrain, arrive at the same cosmic blueprint? Were they tapping into universal truths or preserving fragments of an older, shared inheritance? Either way, these alignments suggest that the sky wasn't just above them, it was part of the structure of their world. Across the ancient world, cultures built sky-reaching monuments with strikingly similar forms. Broad bases rising in geometric layers, often culminating in a sacred point or platform. We call them pyramids. But they weren't all tombs. They were cosmic stage sets, architectural prayers, and reflections of the heavens. In Egypt, smooth-sided pyramids like those at Giza were precisely aligned with the cardinal directions and may have mirrored star formations like Orion's belt. In Mesoamerica, Maya and Aztec step pyramids, like the one at Chichen Itza, served as temples and observatories, echoing sacred mountains. The Nubians of Sudan built over 200 steep, narrow pyramids, more than Egypt, many serving as royal tombs. And in Peru, ancient cultures like the Chavin and Mochi constructed massive adobe pyramids that aligned with the sun and moon. Despite being separated by thousands of miles and cultural traditions, the similarities are hard to ignore. These structures weren't just practical, they were symbolic. Many reflected cosmologies where the earth, heavens, and underworld were connected by a central axis, the pyramid acting as a kind of spiritual antenna. In Peru's Supe Valley, the city of Caral holds one of the oldest pyramid complexes in the Americas, dating back nearly 5,000 years. That places it roughly within the same era as Egypt's Old Kingdom pyramids, a parallel development with no clear link but undeniable resonance. Today, we still build skyward. Skyscrapers now stand where temples once rose. But the impulse is the same, to connect heaven and earth through structure and scale. So why do cultures who never met all build so similarly? Is the pyramid simply the most stable shape? Or does it reflect a shared impulse to reach higher, both physically and spiritually, a geometry of the soul as much as of stone? Want to dive deeper into the secrets of ancient engineering, forgotten cities, and sacred geometry? Check out our ebook, Secrets of the Ancient World. You'll find the link in the pinned comment. Before cranes, engines, or even wheels, ancient cultures were moving stones heavier than modern military tanks, shaping landscapes with nothing but determination, ingenuity, and collective will. From Europe to Asia, the Americas to the Pacific, the scale and similarity of these megalithic projects raise a powerful question. How did they do it, and why? At Stonehenge, multi-ton blue stones were transported over 150 miles, arranged to mark both solar and lunar events with astronomical accuracy. In India's Karnataka region, massive dolmens and chambered tombs appear across the hills, many oriented to rising and setting celestial bodies. On Japan's ocean floor, the Yonaguni Monument remains a mystery, its sharp angles and massive terraces sparking debate over whether it's a natural formation or a sunken structure carved by early hands. Then, there's Göbekli Tepe, dating back over 11,000 years. The T-shaped pillars, weighing up to 20 tons each, are arranged in circles and carved with animals and symbols. Built by hunter-gatherers, with no cities, no wheels, and no metal tools, it suggests an entirely different timeline for when complex, symbolic architecture began. In the Andes, sites like Sacsayhuaman in Peru showcase interlocking stones fitted so precisely that no mortar was needed. Some stones weigh over 100 tons, with shapes so complex they look almost 3D printed, yet they were shaped with hand tools and lifted into place with unknown methods. Even today, we struggle to replicate this kind of precision without modern machinery. So were these independent feats of engineering genius, or signs that certain building techniques or even ways of thinking were once shared more widely than we've imagined? And if they were, who or what was passing them along? Either way, these monuments weren't just shelters or shrines. They were acts of devotion, statements of power, and messages to time itself, written in stone. If you're enjoying this content and want to support the channel, consider hitting that super thanks button. Every bit of support helps keep the lights on and the curiosity burning bright. In nearly every corner of the ancient world, the sun wasn't just light, it was life. It governed planting seasons, marked sacred days, and set the rhythm of existence. But for ancient people, the sun was more than a cosmic clock. It was a god. In Egypt, Ra sailed across the sky by day and journeyed through the underworld by night, reborn at dawn. For the Inca, Inti was the divine ancestor of kings, honored at Coricancha, the empire's most sacred solar temple. In Greece, Helios drove his golden chariot across the heavens. And in ancient Arabia, Shams lit the desert skies with divine fire. They didn't just tell stories about the sun, they built them into stone. The Nabateans carved Petra into the cliffs so that on the solstice, a beam of sunlight would pierce the darkness and illuminate a sacred altar. In England, the rising midsummer sun aligns perfectly with the entrance to Stonehenge. At Chichen Itza on the equinox, sunlight casts the shadow of a serpent slithering down the pyramid of Kukulkan, bringing myth to life in real time. The sun connected rulers to the divine. It symbolized order, rebirth, and cosmic balance. Even today, many of our holidays, from solstice festivals to New Year celebrations, are timed to solar events. And with the rise of solar energy, we're once again drawing power literally from the sun. What's fascinating is how consistently cultures around the world turned the sun into a symbol of truth, justice, and divine will. Whether in sandstone, gold, or legend, they encoded their awe of the sun in enduring forms. So was this just the universal response to the brightest object in the sky? Or does solar worship reflect a deeper, global instinct to find meaning in the patterns of light and time? Across cultures and continents, the serpent slithers through ancient belief systems, not merely as a creature of fear, but as a symbol of transformation, knowledge, and sacred power. For beings that shed their skin and move between elements, snakes became ideal emblems of the boundary between worlds, life and death, earth and sky, chaos and wisdom. In Egypt, Wadjet, the cobra goddess, was both protector and symbol of divine authority, worn on the crowns of pharaohs. In India, the Nagas were serpent deities who guarded treasures and cosmic secrets, living in hidden realms beneath the earth. The Maya and Aztecs revered Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, as a creator god and civilizing force. And in Aboriginal Australia, the rainbow serpent shaped rivers and brought rain, credited with creating the very contours of the land. These weren't just myths, they were engraved into power itself. Even the rod of Asclepius, the ancient Greek symbol for healing, features a coiled snake, an emblem still used in modern medicine today. But the serpent wasn't only symbolic, it was celestial. In Ohio, the Serpent Mound, built by indigenous North Americans over 1,000 years ago, winds nearly 400 meters across a hilltop. Its body curves with lunar cycles, and its open jaws align with the setting sun on the summer solstice. It's an earthwork of mythic proportion, both calendar and creature. Why did cultures that never met all elevate the serpent? Perhaps because it embodies contradiction, feared yet revered, earthly yet transcendent. And perhaps because, at a primal level, it speaks to something buried deep in the human imagination. Whether seen as guardian, god, or guide, the serpent reminds us that the boundary between this world and the next has always been more flexible than we think. For ancient cultures, death wasn't an ending. It was a journey. And across vastly different civilizations, that journey often followed a similar path. A descent through darkness, a series of trials, and the hope of rebirth or reward on the other side. In Egypt, the soul traveled through the Duat, a shadowy underworld filled with gates, guardians, and challenges. At its end, the heart was weighed against a feather, a test of truth. If it passed, the soul entered a paradise. If not, it faced annihilation. In the Maya world, souls descended into Xibalba, ruled by death gods and filled with traps, riddles, and darkness. Greece had Hades, a realm of shadows where souls crossed the river Styx and faced judgment before entering their final destination. In Hindu tradition, souls pass us through Naraka, a series of underworlds where karma was balanced, often painfully, before reincarnation. These weren't just metaphors. They shaped funerary practices, temple design, and how people lived their daily lives. What's striking is how often these stories echo each other. Many describe a perilous journey through caverns or rivers, guarded gates, and moral testing. In both Maya and Egyptian traditions, souls are guided by sacred texts, like roadmaps to the afterlife, from the Book of the Dead in Egypt to the Popol Vuh in Mesoamerica, and must answer riddles or face deities who determine their fate. And even today, the idea of judgment, passage, and transcendence still lingers in our memorials, rituals, and beliefs. We write obituaries as final narratives. We build cemeteries like cities for the dead. The journey never really ended. Whether these stories emerged from shared archetypes or ancient contact, they reflect a deep human need to make sense of loss and to believe that something exists beyond the final breath. Among the many puzzles in ancient art, few spark as much debate as the visual similarities between the Olmec civilization of Mesoamerica and ancient Egypt. The Olmecs, who flourished around 1200 BCE in what is now southern Mexico, were master sculptors, city builders, and the earliest known complex society in the region. And yet, some of their imagery has raised eyebrows for decades. Carved stone figures show rulers seated on thrones, posed in profile, often wearing elaborate headdresses and stylized clothing. At first glance, some of these depictions resemble Egyptian reliefs, where pharaohs sit rigidly on thrones, also in profile, crowned with tall, symbolic regalia. Both cultures used visual language to express divine authority, cosmic order, and the blending of human and god. One Olmec figurine, discovered in Veracruz, wears a dual-plumed headdress that closely resembles the Egyptian double crown, a symbol of unified Upper and Lower Egypt. Most scholars view this as coincidence, evidence of how different societies independently created similar iconography to convey status and divinity, and no linguistic, genetic, or trade evidence supports contact between them. But it does raise a question: how many visual echoes can exist before we question the isolation of these civilizations? Modern branding offers an interesting parallel. All over the world, different companies have independently designed logos that resemble each other, because humans tend to repeat shapes that suggest strength, unity, or balance. Perhaps ancient iconography followed the same patterns. To be clear, there is no known contact between the Olmecs and Egyptians, no shared language, DNA, or trade goods. But the similarities remain a compelling visual riddle, one that reminds us how artistic expression often converges across time and space. Maybe it's not about one culture influencing another. Maybe it's about how power looks when carved in stone. Wherever humans have ruled, we often imagine the ancient world as divided, oceans as walls, land masses as isolated stages. But the more we look, the more it seems the sea wasn't a barrier. It was a bridge, and scattered across time are clues that ancient people may have known far more about the world's geography than we once believed. One of the most famous puzzles is the Piri Reis map, drawn in 1513 by an Ottoman admiral. It depicts parts of South America and, controversially, what some interpret as the ice-free coast of Antarctica, centuries before it was officially explored. Its maker claimed to have copied older maps now lost to history. Whether it's evidence of ancient seafaring or just misinterpretation, it sparks a bigger question. What knowledge have we forgotten? And then there's the Polynesians, navigators who sailed thousands of miles across the Pacific using no compasses, no written charts. They read the stars, ocean swells, bird migrations, even the color of waves. These oral systems, passed down through generations, allowed them to explore an ocean larger than all the world's continents combined and find islands no wider than a city block. The Phoenicians, Greeks, and early Indian Ocean traders also mapped coastlines with remarkable precision. Some ancient portolan charts are so accurate they resemble satellite images in layout. In rock art, from Australia to Scandinavia, we even see depictions of boats dating back thousands of years. Today, we rely on GPS to navigate our cities, but ancient mariners memorized the movements of stars to cross entire oceans. That contrast reminds us just how skilled and connected early humans may have been. Maybe it's time to rethink the ocean, not as something that separated us, but as the original network, one that once carried myths, goods, people, and ideas across the wide blue world. If lost maps, early explorers, and ancient global networks fascinate you, Secrets of the Ancient World takes that curiosity even further. Links in the pinned comment below. Don't miss it. Long before people wrote history down, they remembered it in stories. Myths weren't just tales of gods and monsters. They were memory systems, crafted to preserve knowledge across generations. In a world without books or backups, stories were how cultures stored identity, lore, cosmology, and survival strategies. We often think of myths as fiction, but many carry traces of real events. Floods, migrations, astronomical changes. The Mesopotamian epic of Gilgamesh includes a flood narrative nearly identical to the story of Noah, one that also appears in Hindu, Native American, and Southeast Asian traditions. Is it coincidence or memory echoing across time? In Aboriginal Australia, Dreamtime stories describe how ancestral beings shaped the land. For decades, they were dismissed as symbolic. Then, researchers found geological evidence, changes in river paths, the appearance of islands, that matched the stories almost exactly. Some of these oral accounts preserve details from over 10,000 years ago, making them among the oldest continuous records of environmental change. Other ancient memory systems used more than words. Polynesian navigators sang chants that encoded star positions and sea routes. In the Andes, quippus, knotted cords, may have recorded census data, calendars, and even stories. African griots memorized dynastic histories stretching back centuries. These were not just traditions, they were technologies of memory, like hard drives made of story and song. Storing truth science would rediscover millennia later. Today, we can use cloud servers and hard drives to hold our data, but ancient cultures encoded theirs in rhythm, repetition, and ritual. And sometimes, these stories travel farther than any artifact. So when we find similar myths across distant cultures, we shouldn't rush to dismiss them as coincidence. They may be pieces of a global archive, a collective hard drive of human experience passed down through time, waiting to be reinterpreted. And in those echoes, we might hear the voices of ancestors, remembering a world we've almost forgotten. What myths or ancient stories fascinate you the most? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We love hearing how these ancient echoes resonate with you. Every comment helps us discover what to explore next. After pyramids, serpent gods, star maps, and shared myths, one question remains. What does it all mean? The patterns we've seen, geometric temples, solar deities, soul journeys, serpent symbols, could suggest lost contact between civilization, or they could reflect something even deeper, shared ways of seeing the world. It's tempting to hunt for a single explanation: cultural diffusion, ancient migration, a forgotten civilization. Maybe, but sometimes the most powerful patterns aren't caused by contact. They emerge because we're human. Across space and time, people have looked at the same stars, mourned the same losses, and asked the same impossible questions. Where did we come from? What lies beyond death? How do we make sense of our place in the universe? Some researchers believe these patterns come from convergent evolution, similar environments creating similar ideas. Others suggest archetypes embedded in our collective unconscious, as Carl Jung proposed. Or perhaps ancient stories and techniques were passed farther and more quietly than written history remembers. What's clear is that the human impulse to build meaning into the world is universal. Whether through myth, math, or monument, ancient people tried to make sense of chaos and leave a legacy of order behind. And maybe the mystery isn't about whether a single lost civilization seeded these ideas, but about how memory itself travels. Like mosaics made from scattered fragments, we're piecing together connections that hint at a story greater than the sum of its parts. In a digital age where we outsource memory to devices, these ancient echoes remind us that history doesn't live only in ruins. It lives in symbols, stories, and the very patterns we're drawn to. Maybe we haven't been telling separate stories after all. Maybe we've been remembering the same truth, fractured across space, but whole in meaning. Maybe we've been telling different versions of the same one, again and again. So what do we make of it all? Geometry in stone, serpent gods and solar temples, shared myths of floods, underworlds, and cosmic balance. Whether these were the result of cultural contact, parallel invention, or a legacy passed down from some forgotten chapter of history, one truth remains. The story of humanity is more connected than we've been taught to believe. And sometimes those connections don't come from stone or myth, but from our own biology. In recent years, geneticists studying ancient remains in South America found something surprising: traces of Australo-Melanesian ancestry in prehistoric populations once thought to descend solely from East Asians. This suggests that thousands of years ago, people from the Pacific may have reached the Americas, possibly by sea, long before established history says they could have. While still debated, it hints at a far richer story of early human migration than our textbooks suggest. It's not definitive proof of global contact, but it's evidence that our ancestors were moving, exploring, and connecting in ways we're still uncovering. And just like the myths and monuments they left behind, their genes are part of the record. Maybe the real mystery isn't whether these civilizations ever met, but how deeply they understood the world, and how much of that understanding we've forgotten. Thank you for exploring these ancient connections with us here at Armchair Archaeology. If you found this journey as fascinating as we did, consider supporting the channel by giving this video a thumbs up and subscribing for more captivating explorations into history, mythology, and archaeology. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you won't miss our next adventure into the past. If you made it this far, you're clearly as fascinated by these mysteries as we are. We'd love to hear from you. What ancient civilization or mystery would you like us to explore next? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Until our next discovery, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep the flame of curiosity burning bright.